Hey folks, welcome back to Midlife Crits. This is Cornell Crits, and now we are going to be interviewing Max. Is it Ponoroff? Is that the correct way to pronounce
Ponoroff.
it? Yep. The developer behind Starstruck, which blew me away. I've already played it just a little bit, Got through the first little bit. I have to say, bravo on really doing something unique with this game. I'll be honest, when I first saw the trailer and I saw the little musical sections, I was taken back to an old PS2 game called Gitaru Man,
hmm
with the musical area. So I love the visual style you've done with this, first off. Very well done.
Yeah, the artists do an amazing job. They're geniuses. But yeah, the PS2 era. I mean, that's the era that's really close to my heart. I mean, that's kind of the games I grew up with, and I always thought those games were so creative. They're so interesting. They had the sense of raw energy to them. Um, and you know I always kind of thought like I want to make a game like that. And then when I released the demo, I saw some Steam reviews saying like this is like a lost PS2 game, and I'm like, whoa, that's the best compliment I can ever get.
Mm-hmm.
um, so yeah, I love that era game too. And Guitar Man, obviously that's a classic.
What was, well, you kind of went into it. What was the inspiration behind the game?
Well, there's so many inspirations. In terms of games and movies and that kind of thing. One of the main inspirations is that era of interesting Japanese games of the 2000s, early 2000s especially.
Mm-hmm.
So Guitar Man is definitely one of them. Other ones that I think about a lot are the games from the developer Lovedillic
Okay.
and the offshoots of that. One of them that actually just came out in English for the first time is Moon. That has been people are loving it in English speakers because it's the first time they can play it. And those games have a very interesting personality to them that I love a lot. Another inspiration is Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood,
Mm-hmm.
and another inspiration is the movie Playtime. Um, so those are some of them, but there's so many. I mean, it's a jumble of all the, so many different things.
All right. That's interesting. You say Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, and now that I'm thinking about it, when I look at the diorama section, I'm like, holy cow, you're right. That's sitting right there in front of me. That's really neat. Um, will there be multiple endings to the game based upon how well you perform in the levels, or is it a single narrative path?
Well, there might be multiple endings, but in your performance doesn't really affect the ending. This is the kind of game where I think the story and the art and the music is really the main focus. So even if you're
Mm-hmm.
not someone who's like a rhythm game fanatic, I think you can still fully enjoy the game. And if you are someone who's a rhythm game fanatic, then you can play on the master mode and you can have a pretty good challenge, I think.
Okay. I really love how when you introduce a character, you get to see the clay sculpture of them. I mean, that takes me back to games like, Clay Fighter, and there was a point-click adventure game that was all claymation that I remember from when I was younger. Really neat to see that kind of aspect brought into it.
hmm Yeah, I was lucky enough to know an artist who makes these kinds of things, and yeah, I contacted him, and um, he was really enthusiastic about it, and he made these beautiful clay figures, and I have them here next to me right now.
Oh, that's awesome.
They're really well made, and but we actually had a funny thing happen with one of them because he's in Mexico. So he was mailing me, and recently, like, there's apparently customs have been getting more strict,
Hmm.
or in so he sent me these clay figures in the mail, and then, like, I get the package and I see on it like has been inspected. I'm like, okay, what's going on here? So I open it up, and like, and I take out Dawn, and her clay figure is fine.
Hmm.
And then I take out Edwin, and oh, his hair, his hair in the front was all like broken
Oh
and
no.
messed up and everything. And I was like, oh my gosh, what am I gonna? So I talked to him. He like told me like he was like, it's okay, I'll make a new one. This is all my fault. I'm like, no, it's not your fault. This is someone else's fault.
Yeah.
Um, so I so he gave me some instructions on how I could fix it myself. So I actually ended up doing a little sculpting myself, just repairing it. So
Nice.
that that's the life of an indie developer. You have to be a
Hmm.
programmer, a tester, a writer, and also a sculptor. Apparently,
Jack of all trades.
yeah.
When did development begin for the game?
Maybe like a couple years ago. But to be honest with you, it's an idea I've been developing in my mind ever since maybe like 2012 or 2013. Um, So it's always been my like thinking about the idea and developing the idea, but maybe full development started like a couple of years ago.
Okay. Um, Now with the guitar aspect, I do see you can use the guitar controller, you can use the keyboard, you can use a standard controller. Now, in the trailer it said guitarists. Is there integration for? I know there's a program out there for actual guitar players where you can play the guitar as part of the rhythm game. Is that integration going to be with this game or no?
Oh, you're talking about like where you can take an actual like electric guitar
Mm-hmm.
and then yeah, like I think Rocksmith has that, right?
Yeah.
Um, I I don't know about that. I mean, that'd be really cool. I have no idea how to do that. I'm actually not even a musician myself. I don't play any instrument. I only know very basic things about music that I've had to learn for this game. So I wouldn't even know how to program that. But that would be really cool. Um, so that's an interesting idea. I really like the idea. I'll think about that.
Awesome. I'm glad I could bring something forward
Yeah.
indirectly. Um, yeah, because I do see that posing some big developmental challenges to work out that interfacing. But all right, I know that you have a track out on Bandcamp. Do you plan on releasing a full soundtrack at any time?
That is one of the most frequent questions. um, yeah, definitely. Like, definitely the full soundtrack is going to come out with the full game. We just put that one track up because that's one of the main songs of the game. Just want to get it out there. But yeah, we'll have the full soundtrack on Bandcamp and probably also Steam because people are doing that now. So it'll be out there.
Okay. I'm actually in the section of the game where Dawn is locked up and doing
Okay.
the improvising, and it's really neat how that you guys wrote an improvisation to the game. And I'm guessing
Yeah.
this will play in much later when you end up performing again.
Yeah, so there's like three different parts of songs. One is where you're playing the notes, sort of like Guitar Hero or Parappa,
Mm-hmm.
or and then there's a part where it's sort of like Guitar Man, where you have to dodge things. That's another part of it, and so it goes back between the playing the songs and the dodging, sort of like Guitar Man a little bit. And then there's the third part, which is improvising, where the player can actually um, play whatever notes they want, and the game will help you play a song. And we thought that would be important because it goes along with the game's theme of creativity,
Mm-hmm.
and also I think it ended up being feeling pretty satisfying. But yeah, a lot of work went into that. I had um, the lead composer and also some other people helped me understand the music theory behind it, and I definitely had to do some reading about music theory to get that to work.
That's I mean, I love that you're working so closely with your musical talent. It's good to see. Um, can you go into a little bit about your composer? What have they worked on anything in the past? What genre do they normally play around with, or anything like
Yeah,
that?
yeah, yeah. Yeah, so the lead composer is Andrew Allenson, and he is pretty much familiar. I mean, if you've seen Star Trek, almost every genre is in there.
Hmm.
Um, and he also did the music for Y2K, a postmodern RPG,
Okay.
which the soundtrack for that. Um, some people don't. A lot of people know this, but some people don't even realize that that soundtrack was extremely popular. And I think it was ranked. It was the fourth top seller on Bandcamp when it came out. So um, yeah, I think the music is amazing. And once people start to hear the rest of the music, I think they're gonna love what they hear.
That's excellent. Yeah, it's a beautiful game. I love how there's some introspective to it. There's I can see a little bit in how some things are presented story wise. It also reminds me of like Earthbound as far as some of the interactions between characters and the way that they're presented.
That's a huge compliment. um, yeah, I love Earthbound. That was sort of the Earthbound community was sort of like the main internet community I was a part of for a lot of my time growing up, and I definitely played that game a lot, and I've become very familiar and fond of it. So if it's similar to Earthbound at all, I'm very happy about that.
Yeah, it was when I'm horrible with names. When Edwin got stopped from going into the club by the or into the factory by the bully.
Hmm.
That just I don't know. That just struck me as a very Earthbound moment.
Yeah, that's sort of something that might happen in Earthbound Beginnings, even, but or Earthbound 2. But yeah, yeah. I mean, I love that game's a classic, right? Everyone loves that game.
Hmm.
So that's great that it could remind you of it at all. It's great to hear.
And you do some really neat like cinematic things like right here during this section where Dawn is singing her song from within her cage within her
Hmm.
cell. You have some really neat homages to like black and white impressionistic French films with the silhouettes and the bird and stuff like that. It's really interesting.
Um, Glad you like that. Yeah, we there's a there's a lot. Like I've had to watch a lot of different movies to try to learn about different things I could do in Starstruck, and that's been one of the joys of actually working on the game. Is I actually wasn't really interested in film before, but now I've become interested in movies because there's so much, especially the older ones. There's so much amazing stuff that goes on there, and so much to learn if you're trying to do something involving visuals or story or anything like that.
Well, that brings up the question then. What was a film that you discovered in your research that you absolutely fell in love with?
Um, Playtime, which I mentioned before,
Mm-hmm.
that's by Jacques Tati. That's the huge one. That's a movie. I can't. Once I saw that after, I couldn't get that out of my head. Um, and some other ones. I mean, um, there's Modern Times, which is actually sort of similar to Playtime. I think Playtime was probably based in part on Modern Times. Um, then there's other ones like The Rules of the Game.
Mm-hmm.
I love that movie. That's one of the greatest movies ever, I think. Um, and I don't know. There's also some Japanese film directors I've become interested in, like uh, Beat Kitano
Mm-hmm.
with his movies like Hanabi, and yeah, I feel like as a side effect of the game, I discovered this whole world of really interesting movies because I didn't even like movies before, but now I love them.
That's awesome. And it's amazing how our inspirational travels can form our habits and enjoyments like that.
Yeah, it's pretty surprising. Like, yeah, I don't know. It's amazing. It's amazing thing.
Um, with the diorama parts, I couldn't help also being reminded of like a little bit of Katamari, especially the opening with the portal and the rocket and stuff like that. That really gave me that feel of Katamari and that randomness to it a little bit, which is awesome.
Hmm.
I see that as a very good thing, and just overall, I'm more and more I sit down with this game, the more and more I fall in love with it, and I can't wait to have my wife try it because she's the rhythm nut in our household.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I hope she likes it. Yeah, Katamari, that was another. I mean, that's obviously a great game. Like, if anything, more people should be inspired by that game. I didn't think about the intro part as being similar to Katamari, but now that you mention it, I could see sort of a connection there. Um, but yeah, Katamari was another game I grew up with. I remember when I first played that game, I like, I don't know, you're familiar with the Tetris effect, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's where if you play Tetris a lot, you start to like see these blocks falling when you close your eyes.
Mm-hmm.
So I
Mm-hmm.
remember when I was playing Katamari when it first came out, I don't even remember what year it was, and then I'd play it for hours and I'd turn it off, and then I actually ended up having something that I would call the Katamari effect, where I just felt like I had to roll things up, like I'd be sitting at my desk and think like I have to roll up the pen into the book and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, that's an amazing game.
It is. I used to have the Tetris effect with WoW for a long
Oh,
time.
oh really?
Yeah. I would fall
Oh,
asleep and I would be seeing my rotation in my head, and it's uh
pretty intense.
and you already answered this question earlier, but you're obviously going from a very much a gameplay perspective, not from a gameplay, but a narrative perspective rather. And it's well, actually, I'm kind of seeing both with you guys. I'm sorry, I'm going over myself a little bit because I'm just blown away more and more by your game, and it's just the love and the artistry that has gone into it is really really inspiring.
I'm glad you like it. Yeah.
And I wanted to ask, right now we have the prologue, we have the
Mhm.
demo. When is your planned or full release date, and what platforms can people find them on?
So the release date is next year,
Mm-hmm.
and it will be on. Right now, we've announced Steam. Obviously, a lot of people ask about consoles, so
Mm-hmm.
probably it might be an announcement in the future about that. And so yeah, but you can. It's the Steam page is up, so if people are interested, they can add it to their Steam wish list, or they can or they could play the demo Starstruck Prologue, which I guess you're playing right now
Yep.
on Steam. And it's actually a pretty substantial demo. I think it's like over an hour long, and now we just added some two new songs to it. So I'm updating and everything, and I think it's a pretty generous demo. So if people are interested at all, they can play it on Steam right now, the demo.
That's awesome. And what where can people find you for following for new developments and stuff like that?
Yeah, they can follow on Twitter. I post development updates on there. Twitter.com/play Starstruck. Or the website has a link to the Discord and also information about the email list, and that's at playstarstruck.com.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I definitely plan on joining your Discord and following you on Twitter myself because I'm really looking forward to this game. And my last question, we kind of touched on it a little bit earlier, but if you had to choose one title in your past growing up that got you to want to make video games, what was it?
Uh, this might be maybe not what you might expect, but actually, and this might be kind of a basic answer, but a lot of people probably say this, but the original Pokemon games, I remember like when I was playing those, when I first started playing it, I just felt like I was just being sucked into this other world. And I just remember just being so immersed. Now, keep in mind, I'm probably like 7 or 8 years old. So, that's just maybe how 7 or 8 year olds are. But I just thought that was amazing that you could just have this whole other world in there.
Mm-hmm.
And that was just so magical. And then at some point, you know, one of my online friends was like showing me some programs making like, what you can make this stuff. Like you can make a program. Like I thought it was just, I guess I didn't realize that. So it's just a magical feeling. And I guess that's got to be it then.
That's great. That's actually the first time I've heard Pokemon today, and I
Oh,
can see
really?
it. I was about 13 or so when it came out, and I remember it being really inspiring. and I'll answer this question in turn because I feel it's fair, to
Yeah,
share.
tell me.
For me, it was Ocarina of Time. The
Okay, I can see
music,
that.
the music's in that game drew me in. The narrative drew me in. Really was powerful for me, and yeah, it was the driving force for me wanting to get involved with cinema and games. So I
That's yeah,
totally get where you're coming from with Pokemon, though. I was obsessed with it.
yeah. I feel like it would have been even more intense if it was Ocarina of Time, though, because but the problem was for me is that I tried to play it as a kid on like my neighbor's copy,
Hmm.
but like it was too scary actually. So I couldn't play
It
it. Like I
has
got
some intense sequences in it.
even just the tree, the atmosphere inside the Deku tree was just like too creepy for me. I'm like, no, I can't play it. So I guess I was a very sensitive kid. Um, so looking back, I wish I was brave enough to keep playing because that would have been an awesome, priceless childhood memory. I'm jealous that you have that.
Well, I want to thank you, Max, for taking the time to talk with me today and show me this beautifully artistic game. I can't wait to see more from it. I'm probably going to play a lot more of it. And I can't wait to share it with my community through our interview and through future content and streams. So thank you again for taking the time with me.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks for talking with me. It was fun.
All right. Okay, folks. Again, big thank you to Max and Starstruck here. And check this game out, folks. Links will be down in the description. And as I always say, I am Cornell Crits for Midlife Crits, and we'll see you next time on the couch. Take care of yourselves.